This week on Myopia Movies, we acknowledge that even though John Candy is both late and great, he didn't always hit it out of the park. We watched Armed and Dangerous as we start our Dantastic month. Thanks for doing everything you do to keep us on the charts. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for encouraging us. Bye, everyone. I'll start over.
Okay. There we go. I see the red button. It's right there.
Okay. Who knows? 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Myopia Movies. Ah, shit. It's still Dan's month. Mr. Sudis, take us home.
All right. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we have a movie that perfectly describes John Candy's penis, Armed and Dangerous. 1986, featuring him and Eugene Levy, directed by Mark Lester. I'm Daniel, frequent annoyance of Nick on this very podcast, past contributor to popdose.com, and on panel we have, we'll start with you, Matt.
Atlanta author Matthew W. Quinn, who wishes to pay tribute to the few, the proud, and the brave, the rent-a-cops.
Nora Churnett, a voice of a generation, I will say, to the Myopia Movies.
And your generally beloved host, Nick Hoffman, refer on Cineprov.
Not this time, you're not the host.
That's right. So as we mentioned at the top, it's Daniel's month. So my question is first here, which is, Daniel, why'd you pick this film?
Well, with my month, I wanted to do a couple of different things. I wanted to do a movie that I know I loved. I wanted to do a movie that I know I hated, and maybe I come around to it again. And then I wanted to do this one, which was a genuine childhood favorite. It used to be on cable all the time. So on those summer months when you're out of school, my brother and I maybe saw this twice in a day at one point. It was on that often. So it was just one of those things. Plus, I'm such a big John Candy and Eugene Levy and all the SCTV. I'm still a fan of that now. So I wanted to explore this movie again from a fresh set of eyes, which way back in the day is what we were all about.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, the original premise of the show was to make people sad about their childhoods. We backed off of that. And now it's more just revisiting movies from the past, sometimes more known than others. But yeah, so it's John Candy and Eugene Levy. In, how do we put it? It's a very 80s movie. A lot of 80s tropes. It's halfway to being a police academy at points. And it's written by Harold Ramis, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I did see him on that in the credits list.
I mean,
which one is he in Ghostbusters?
Egon.
Yeah.
And he directed a bunch of stuff. He wrote a bunch of stuff. He passed away a few years back.
But that didn't keep him from returning for whatever the new Ghostbusters was called.
Afterlife, which was
not a bad movie. Y'all gonna hate me when I say this. No, okay, I'll say this. And I was on Instagram, and they were interviewing Freddie Prinze Jr. For those who are not familiar with Freddie Prinze Jr., he played Fred from the Scooby-Doo series, and also I forgot what he was. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I didn't really watch him, but
no, that was his wife.
Yes.
His wife.
His wife.
But essentially, he said something about people not, because he did voice work for Star Wars, and he essentially said that the people who are mad about the new Star Wars or the new Ghostbusters, it wasn't necessarily made for y'all. It was made for this new generation, essentially. And that's what I'll say. Like, I didn't go, like, I think we're having a conversation right before this about saying how jealous I am, considering that you got at least, okay, for John Candy, as Daniel mentioned, he said you passed away when he was 6. When you were 6, not he was 6. He doesn't look 6. Yeah. And then Chris Farley passed away in the 90s as well. Same thing with Jim Belushi. And coincidentally, all these people died of the same, was it Speedball?
John Candy died of a heart attack. He wasn't a drug user. I think he meant John Belushi. Mr. Jim Belushi is still very much with us.
He's very much alive and selling weed. I do, yeah. But no, I mean, I get jealous because we do have comedic actors here, but they're not just comedic actors. You know what I'm saying? We have Bill Hader, famously on SNL, but also has Barry, which is kind of like a dramedy of some sort, but it's not that once in a generation comedic star. You know what I mean? It's just, I guess it's just too fatigued at this point.
Well,
I mean,
you guys grew up with the Adam McKay squad, right? Your Paul Rudd, your Will Ferrell's, your
right.
What is it? Talladega Nights, Anchorman, the other guys, those kinds of movies.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong.
Daniel alluded to, we grew up with the kind of 70s Saturday Night Live and the SCTV guys making their movies in the 80s and early 90s. That would be your Dan Aykroyd, your John Belushi's, and then eventually your Jim Belushi's. From SCTV, we get Eugene Levy, we get John Candy, we get Rick Moranis.
True. But you see, all those films, all those the comedic things of everything, it laid the foundation of the Will Ferrells, of the Kevin Harts, of the Eddie Murphys, Eddie Murphy's during the time, but it laid out the comedic of the time. I just wish we would have something similar where it's just so fucking groundbreaking. You know what I mean? It makes sense. But that's just me. Maybe because I don't know, film and TV and such, it's so, okay, I wouldn't say so PC now, but I want to say there was an element to taking risks, comedic risks, about those guys that I just really appreciated. You know what I mean? You can't make Animal House nowadays without it going straight to DVD and not being as culturally significant as it could have been in this era. But that's just fair.
I mean, I think you're right, but I think the biggest problem is the last part, which is that we don't put comedies, big box or not, in theaters anymore.
No,
right?
No.
It goes straight to Netflix. And so one of the biggest comedies of the last 20 years are probably the Hangover movies. But other than those, I can't think of anything that was designed specifically in that way. I mean, they're all kids movies or superhero movies that are kind of funny, but they're not true comedies in that way.
True comedies. Yeah.
That movie, No Hard Feelings, is out right now.
What's that about?
That's the Jennifer Lawrence movie where she's hired to date a virgin.
Yes.
Before he goes to college, yeah.
And many reviews keep talking about how there aren't any comedies in theaters anymore.
Well, considering how that's doing at the box office, that's probably not going to change.
Yeah.
Any groundbreaking comedies. I think, Nick was right. The Hangover was Deadpool did it, but that was more so still superhero movie, so I had to bank on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I could be just talking on my ass, but in hopes that someone will hear this and be inspired to write that really good comedy movie. Not a feel good comedy movie, not a rom-com, just a fucking comedy movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of all that, we're off to a cheery start. We mentioned that this movie might not be as well known, even if Eugene Levy, especially today, is after Schitt's Creek, and John Candy, amongst people of a certain age, his stature's grown. But I'll just go and ask, was this the first time everybody saw this movie? Matt, was this your first time?
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it before.
First time.
I'd seen parts of it before because, like you said, it was always on TV. But I believe this was the first time I sat down and watched the whole thing. So yeah.
Well, let's go around and get everyone's initial thoughts. Matt, what did you expect going in, and what did you think?
I don't think I expected it to be as good as it was, but it was pretty funny.
All right. There's some jokes I don't think you could get away with these days, but Noor, what did you think?
Hilarious. Something that I really appreciate about doing this podcast is just an excuse to watch movies. But also when you guys suggest movies, I don't watch the trailers. I don't know anything about, I just go head first, like for real. And to me, that's like the best, coming with a blank canvas. And for someone who appreciates comedy, this movie was really fucking funny. And yeah, I loved everything of it. I loved seeing a young Eugene Levy with that members only jacket, and of course just seeing more movies with John Candy
and the assless chaps. Did you enjoy that too?
Oh, I didn't know I needed to see Eugene Levy's ass, but here we go.
Surprising it's not as hairy as the rest of his body.
No, it's not. It's
No,
a very
it's not.
sad looking ass.
Maybe he shaved.
Maybe he shaved.
Maybe.
He probably did.
Well,
I will answer the question myself then. How do I put it? It's fine. No, I mean, it's just, if you watched a montage of John Candy's best hits, this wouldn't have any of them, I don't think, except for maybe the end of him running down the freeway and then stabbing that truck tire, which we'll get to.
Even the drag scene.
actually, that might be up there.
No, because he's played drag several times.
Yeah.
It's not The Great Outdoors where he's eating the big 76er. It's not him describing the game at the Cubs. That's not to say it's a bad movie. It's just that we're spoiled for choice in this era. And this qualifies right in the middle of what you'd call an 80s comedy, right? Like, it's too horny by half. It's over the top. The cops are the bad guys. The criminals are the bad guys. The mafia is the bad guys. Like, you rather than draw one out of the hat, everyone was the bad guys. So, like, for me, it's just kind of down the middle of the road. But it's not a bad thing. I wish Eugene Levy got to star in more stuff. Ironically, this is the second movie of theirs that we've done back to back in the last 3 months because they're both in Splash in very similar roles. Actually,
but they barely meet in Splash, right? Like, Eugene Levy was the scientist and John Candy was Tom Hanks's horny brother, which he carries that horniness over into this movie. But they have like maybe 2 scenes together.
Yeah, it's the finale. They're together in the finale. But clearly it's the same casting pool, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I have nothing wrong with this movie. It's not, I just, we'll get there. We'll talk about it.
Well, let's go ahead and start at the beginning then. The movie is Armed and Dangerous, and it's meant to be a parody of all of the buddy cop movies that were becoming very popular in the 80s. Lethal Weapon came out the following year, though, so in some ways it was ahead of its time. But we open actually with John Candy at first, and he's trying to rescue a kitten from a tree, and this being wacky, he gets caught up there himself. Which, okay. I mean, they kind of tried to do something new, and that it's not a physical gag where he like falls out of the tree. He's just trapped up there and giving the same excuses I would give. Oh, the cat's nervous. Be careful. The cat's scared.
I was expecting him to fall out of the tree and crush the police car.
See, though, that would have been a little too obvious. And all told, John Candy, even on SCTV, sometimes they made jokes about his girth, but not really a whole lot from what I remember.
No, that's more of a John Belushi or Chris Farley bit.
That would definitely be a Chris Farley bit.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with it is, and Daniel, you might know this guy, who wrote the book Save the Cat?
I don't know.
So I'll look it up really quick. But the idea of the first scene, somebody, his name is Blake Snyder. He's written a million things, but and he's a script doctor is the name. But he talks about this a lot. Like, the first thing you need to do is show the hero being a hero in some way. And so he literally saves the cat. Problem is, he doesn't prove he's a competent cop at all. Like, this is an embarrassment, which is fine, but you can't then expect me in the next scene to see him break up like the mafia or something. I would have liked to see him do something good copy first, but instead they do this thing where he's stuck in a tree. He himself.
It shows his morals, his values.
He's the good guy.
He's the good guy. You know, he's not corrupt.
He is a little lazy. I mean, he's telling this crying child, "Oh, the cat'll get hungry. It'll come down. Don't worry about it." Yep.
When was the last time you climbed a tree? I've never climbed a tree. I don't need to climb a tree.
Well, fair enough.
It's been a long time.
It has been. I remember enjoying a tire swing at my grandparents' house, but that's about it.
I got you.
Yeah. But he then proves to be like, as though it didn't happen. There's no consequence. There's no background. He just is smash cut to it now night. And instead of driving through the John Hughes suburbs, he is now in downtown city.
He's in the French Connection is what he's in.
He is. And it's nighttime, but it's still like everyone just waves at cops. Like, he's the most popular cop in the world. And it's very out of place for the rest of this movie. But it's because everyone loves him, even though he's kind of he's not a piece of garbage, but he's gruff. He, like you said, it's a buddy cop movie. He's not a dirty cop, but he does literally hang a guy underneath a weight. Like, he's not an upright guy. The upright guy, the kind of nebbishy one, is Eugene Levy.
It's gizmo time, bitches.
He's a gentle giant.
Yes, he is.
Like an Andre the Giant or Shrek, or what's another one? Just a gentle giant.
I mean, it's the character he always plays, right? Like in Uncle Buck, he's this way, where he stands up for the kids. It's where he stands up for the team in Cool Runnings. It's where he stands up for himself in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like, he is the goofy guy who has a heart of gold, and he can, stand up for himself, which is important.
After this, though, we get this. It's about two guys losing their job and having to become security guards. So John Candy is framed for trying to steal a TV that two other cops were trying to steal.
Right.
And I mean, that scene isn't really particularly funny. Is part of the problem. They kind of lose the comedic edge after they reveal that these are two cops that he's cornered. And he gets accused. He's fired by the police force, and the state decides not to pursue criminal charges, but the police department's find him, so he needs money. And then the next case is Eugene Levy trying to defend a Charles Manson-esque figure, which actually is a little funny when he's up trying to negotiate on the bench. Nora, I see you laughing there. What did you like?
He's just a terrible lawyer, man. He didn't know, like, he got the kidnapping charge to him. He looked at him like, "Are you serious?" No, and then he tries to negotiate the plea deal with the judge. He was like, "Come on, who hasn't kidnapped? It was an accident. He didn't like that." That's
bad taste is not a crime, Your Honor. Describing a rug made of human hair.
Right.
But this is where the movie should not stay, but this is about the level the movie should be at, right?
Yeah.
Like, because like you mentioned, it's straight out Charles Manson, right? The guy is supposed to be, doing the crazy Charlie routine.
He has the same swastika on his forehead.
And he has the people behind him dressed up like bikers who are cheering whenever anything happens. And he whispers in Eugene Levy's ear, if I go to jail, I'll kill you.
And then bites the fuck out of his shoulder, which
just goes for it. I'll also mention his name here since we're, I guess, actually talking. His name is Norman Kane.
Yes.
Which I, for some reason,
the crazy guy.
No, that's Eugene Levy's character.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, it for some reason it leaves my head the second it goes. Because Eugene Levy always looks and acts like Eugene Levy, so it's hard for me to think him as anything. That's why he's always just Eugene Levy. John Candy has a couple different modes, and here, he's different. He's playing a different character. So I got his name down, but for some reason Eugene Levy to me is always Eugene Levy.
Even in Schitt's Creek, except in American Pie, he's not quite Eugene Levy.
True. Quick question, just because we're on the topic and it's in my head. Charles Manson.
Yes.
How bad was he?
It depends on who you ask, because no,
I'm asking the general public.
Charles Manson was in and out of prisons his whole life, and he was kind of nuts, so they wanted to put him away, but he didn't. Like, it's up for debate whether he actually did any of the murdering or people did that in his name. Like,
was he the Kool-Aid guy?
No, that was Jim Jones.
That's Jim Jones.
He was the Bianca. He was the Bianca Tate guy. He had his quote unquote family members break into some actor's mansion, and he murdered. Oh God! Why am I blanking
Sharon
on her
Tate?
Name? Sharon Tate and her unborn child. They murdered her and some other people in the house.
Mm-hmm.
That was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
right?
With the Tarantino movie.
Yes.
So, oh snap! Okay. I tend to steer away from conflicting people of interest. I think the last person I caught up with was the DC Sniper, which was honestly sad day for Black people. As apart from other things, it happens, but we didn't think.
It was quite a tear you went on there, Nor.
Right. But yeah, just curious, because all these Netflix shows. I'm surprised. I'm sure there is some Lifetime movie about Stockholm Syndrome and Charles Manson somewhere that I could try and find. But okay, so
well,
continue. Back to the movie.
Well, anyway, Eugene Levy is threatened by the Charles Manson figure that he's going to kill him, and so Eugene Levy tells that to the judge, and the judge is like, plead your client guilty. I'll give him a sentence so long that you'll never see him again, but you need to find a new line of work, which wouldn't work because a lawyer just can't enter a plea on behalf of a client without their consent. But anyway, that's what happens.
We talk about the police stuff in this. There's no hope.
No.
All right. Fair enough. But anyway, that's why they need new jobs, and so they, in the next scene, are being trained as licensed security guards.
That's right. And I mean, you mentioned that John Candy is caught, so to speak, but it's literally the trial before, where he is like, they drop the charges as long as he pays a fine and is kicked off the force, right? So now they end up at this dog security guard thing, which is, I thought it was going to be dogs involved, but it's not. It's just security guards.
There are dogs involved in one scene, but for the most part, it's just security guards, including a supporting cast member who I would have bet money was Emo Phillips not doing the Emo Phillips voice, but it's not.
Oh, you know who it is?
It's that?
The guy who plays Kramer when they're filming the pilot on Seinfeld.
Okay, I
the
knew
guy
he
who
was familiar.
All the raisins.
Yes.
Larry Hankins.
Yeah.
He's I classify him as, there's many actors that I call the dude, because you know that guy's name, but you don't know what his you know the actor, but you don't know his name, because I've seen him pop off in like Seinfeld, like he's Breaking Bad. Everyone Loves Raymond. Just yeah.
I think he has almost 200 credits on IMDb. He's just in everything, including another serial killer one. He plays the neighbor of John Wayne Gacy at one point in the movie Gacy.
Oh God.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think that neighborhood's Hoa was like?
I mean, John Wayne Gacy was apparently like the guy who threw parties all the time, so I'm sure it was just like we're gonna have a 4th of July barbecue, and John Wayne was just so masculine.
And he probably would have been on that host. So it's like, okay, we're finding you because your bushes aren't cut and your crawl space is inaccessible.
That's right. And there's a smell. We all smell the smell, right? By the way, this guy also worked the next year with John Candy on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He plays Doobie, that guy that they come across, the stoner.
Yes. All right. Well, speaking of Breaking Bad, during this scene too, we get 2 union reps coming because this is a closed shop and you have to join a union and pay exorbitant weekly fees, which I think it's like 3 hours pay towards union dues every week.
Yeah. It was like,
and one of these reps just happens to be Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad.
Right.
Yeah, this movie goes full on the waterfront real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Reagan, right? Very Reagan era, like it's against the unions, right? It's the cops are bad, so there's the individual hero type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the Dirty Harry school of cops, right? It ticks all the boxes right away. And who are these
we're
two
just
guys?
gonna give that John Candy a big handgun and then crime will solve itself, mother.
We'll get to the end, but that handgun looks exactly like a blaster from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It showed up the next year in Spaceballs.
That's right.
What pistol needs a scope?
None.
No.
Absolutely not.
It's for hunting buffaloes close range.
It's a duck hunt gun, is what it is.
That's what it is.
But yeah, so who are these two guys, Daniel? I'm gonna get it wrong. The giant guy with the bad hairpiece.
Oh, let's see.
That's another character actor whose name I'm forgetting.
It's not Brion James, is it?
It is Brion James.
Brion James. That's exactly who it is. Then the mafiosi behind it all, a guy named Michael Carlino, is played by Robert Loggia.
It's not a crime movie in the 80s without Mr. Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia, who's in 1,000 things. And I'm looking at the IMDb right now. Character who's not listed, or maybe is listed further down. James Tolkien, there he is.
The principal from Back to the Future.
Back to the Future turned 93 yesterday, I think, as we are recording.
Oh, is he? Oh, he's alive. Good for him.
He is alive. Yeah, yeah, 92.
Good for him.
92 years old.
Hey,
he shows up later in this movie.
He does. As the guy at the union who's like the treasurer, I think.
He's the treasurer, yeah.
Which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah. And also, someone that I obviously just popped in from like just the training meeting, Tommy Lister Jr., which I know him from playing Debo from Friday movies as just like the neighborhood, but also as people might know him, he was the president in the the Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element.
Fifth Element.
Are you talking about Tom Zeus Lester?
Tommy Lester.
Tommy Lester.
Tommy Lester.
The late great. Well,
Like,
well, yes, he shows up later too, but we don't need to just run down the cast list. We should also mention just what's going on. Eugene Levy at first is asking all these financial questions about what the $15 a week is going for. One of the other trainees, who's a convicted felon, hates him because he failed to get him out of a murder. What was it? A battery charge?
Robbery, maybe?
Anyway, he went to prison because Eugene Levy didn't defend him properly. So obviously he's a little pissed off. So that's kind of a funny gag. Eugene Levy, he's funniest when he's faced with an impossibly dumb situation and trying to keep sane throughout it, which is kind of what that is.
And it's another dig at lawyers, which is, and the only reason I'm pointing this out is if you've never seen another 80s comedy, like this is what they are. It's a lawyer joke. It's a public defender joke. It's a Ghostbusters 2. You have the judge who's like, you know what, you bastards, if it was up to me, I'd burn you like witches. And then the ghosts actually show up and he goes, it's the Scolari brothers. I gave him the chair. It's like the judge who's like bloodthirsty and like, and again, that's also Harold Ramis. These are just themes that come up time and time again. So Daniel, the next time you write a pop dose piece, these are, I mean, we're giving you freebies here, like most bloodthirsty judges. You can just run with it.
Thank you for the suggestion. I will keep that in mind.
Sure.
But they become security guards in one afternoon, including some time at a shooting range where Eugene Levy can't shoot for shit.
Right. And then we have the
Wait, hold on. The security officers have guns nowadays? No.
Yeah, well, back in the
America,
80s,
everyone
you know,
has
it's almost like they're given armaments, so you could call these security guards armed. And since they're not really all that adequate in the usage of those firearms, they're dangerous. So they're twice.
What?
What?
I don't know. It just my screen froze for a second, but I came back. Your eyes were bucking out of your head, Norris. I'm making sure.
Well, the recording said it briefly stopped for a second. We just wanted to, I think, make sure it was still
that was on me. My computer lagged for a second, so I.
Do we want to make sure we had the first part?
I'm sure, but give me 1 second. But I'm sure we did. This is usually does a pretty good job. This is Zoom. This is the recording that's happening now. What's happening now is happening now. Yes. We're good. Yeah.
All right. So I'll go ahead and jump back in. So they're all trained in one afternoon, and then they're given out their first assignments by another.
Who's the woman in charge of the gun range?
That would be Meg Ryan.
This is, and it's funny because she is the most out of place of any of these characters. And it's funny. I mean, it comes up later. What's his name? Robert Loggia makes a pass at her. But the whole point is that, like, her daddy runs everything and blah, 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 blah. Meg Ryan movie. I'm so bubbly and cute. And the rest of the movie is not any of that. And so it's really kind of funny at how bizarre, how out of sorts the rest of it feels. Which, again, it's the point. It's funny. And she's like, now make sure I'm out of the way before you start firing. And everyone's like, oh, Meg Ryan. And then Candy does.
Check this out. What's her name in the movie?
Maggie.
Oh, damn. I have. Oh,
man, what did you have?
I thought it was Meg. That's not far from the truth.
No. I mean, you're not that far off. You're fine.
Right.
But again, and then my favorite bit is then John Candy does like a Marty McFly bit from Back to the Future 3, which again comes after this. But he just pulls out his side piece, hits all the rounds right into the guy's head, and just move on. All right.
Hey, and RoboCop was the year after this too, so maybe that's where they got the shooting range scene.
Can you imagine? What's his name? Just watching it, like it's like, yes, the subtleties of a John Candy performance is exactly what I need. Peter Weller talking about Jesus, and then just John Candy getting shot or shooting the guy.
You know, it was right about here though that my more critical sense went up, and I realized this movie is kind of going for a bunch of different tones. Like, is it just a slapstick? Is it meant to be a farce? Is it meant to be an action spoof? What are we doing here?
I mean, I love it because it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but Ghostbusters kind of fucked it up for Harold Ramis, because Ghostbusters is also all over the place and by all means should not work, but it does work. And now Harold Ramis tries that tone a lot in his movies later on. And a lot of the time it's the funny moments are funny. The horror moments are horror. The action movies are action. It just doesn't flow very well a lot of the time.
I mean, it was the same sort of problem with Stripes, kind of. It's got a lot of funny set pieces, which he starred in. It's got a lot of funny set pieces, but the flow is just kind of all over the place.
And the ending falls apart.
Much like here, but we'll get there.
And I mean, like, this whole scene is a police academy movie. And so they had to stop it so it doesn't become the police academy movie. So it now has to go completely in a different direction. And what they do is get fired on the first day of the job, which is just outrageous. So yeah, take us to the set piece, someone.
Well, after this, they get their first assignment in some warehouse somewhere where Bruno, and that's Zeus Lester's character, makes them go get a lunch break, and there's a robbery as they're supposed to be on break. So there's confrontations, a shootout, and then a dog attack.
As someone who used to manage at a Walgreens, which doesn't sound like much, but
where did you manage it? Where did you manage the Walgreens? That's very important.
It was one on Cobb Parkway, which, if you're not down here, it's the busiest one in the state. I mentioned this because though we did put about $1 million in profit a month, the bigger thing is that you have a whole bunch of drugs. The first day of my training, they were patching up a wall that someone had driven an F-350 into to steal a bunch of Ritalin.
Cobb Parkway, we call that Skid Row in these parts.
Well, actually, nowadays we call it the Braves Stadium.
Yeah.
But the point is, as a manager, one of the first trainings we teach our employees is never stop a robbery. Never, ever, 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 because you'll get shot and it will be your fault, and then the insurance doesn't cover you. So let them take the money. Don't do those things. It's not worth dying for a Walgreens. And so Eugene Levy goes, hey, I need to see your order. And they have guns, and that could be the end of the movie.
Ski masks. They're like, it's not that cold. They're just...
geez, guys, it's hard to see your faces with those ski masks on. It's
not that cold. That's one of the great Eugene Levy lines right there. It's not that cold out.
And something that would have fixed this scene the complete opposite way? Go full Naked Gun and make it a pure straight man, right? They're both a little bit goofy, which takes away the humor. If he meant it seriously, it's not that cold. You shouldn't need those masks. And because there's a line that Nielsen has in Naked Gun. The guy goes, shooting, goes, you take that, copper. He goes, it's really hard to hear you when you're shooting a gun at the same time. And then the bullet dings right next to him. And then he goes, oh, and then he realizes that they're firing. But immediately the scene is broken because he's also kind of goofy. But again, go ahead.
Norman. No, I love OJ in those movies.
I'm editing that so it just says I love OJ, and then I'm gonna leave it. He didn't do anything, god damn it.
You're gonna splice different recordings of me saying I love the juice or just whatever.
Yes.
The cops planted the glove. I'm sure there's something. Johnny Cochran should have won an Oscar. That sounds like that. Yeah.
True story. True story. They initially approached him to be the Terminator, but the producers thought he would look too nice, so they didn't go for it.
It's true.
Oh, hindsight makes fools of us all. But anyway, so afterwards, they're being chewed out by their boss, who finds them, $100 a piece for failing to stop a robbery, which, as Nick points out, really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that's what we got to work with here. And that's where we also learn that Meg Ryan is their boss's daughter. Which that also never really has a payoff. I mean, it kind of does towards the end, but do either of them really, quote unquote, hook up with her?
I think Eugene Levy does at the end.
Kind of, but it doesn't really make much of a difference to the plot.
No, they didn't hook up.
It's supposed to be you've got to have a love interest. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of you need to have a girl involved so no one thinks the two of them are in love, I guess.
Yeah.
like the old Batman show where they had that aunt that lived with them. So it's like they can't be gay. There's a woman in the house. After the chewing out, this is where they go to the union meeting, and Eugene Levy nearly turns the union against them. James Tolkien. I mean, again, the mafia there. They shuffle out. They close the meeting, and no one is shocked. But they all cheer Eugene Levy for being a schmuck, which is good.
And then Robert Loggia threatens to break his legs if he ever shows up again.
That's what you want with a union leader.
Yeah, it gets full Hoffa here for a minute.
I mean, back in the day, people these days seem to forget there was a lot of organized crime that was infiltrating unions.
I was going to say, you could have just stopped your sentence there. There was a lot of organized crime, period.
Right.
That was kind of the 80s. And I mean, they do make jokes at the expense of all these things later, but it's just, God help me, that scene where there's like, any new business? And he goes, yes, I actually do have some new business. We were fine. And he could not be bothered. Funny.
So we end up with John Candy and Eugene Levy being given all the worst jobs, including a dump and a toxic waste hellhole, which is causing the previous crew's teeth to fall out.
Now that's Tim and Eric right there. That is like, those guys walked so Tim and Eric could run, whoever the guards were at the toxic waste dump.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and it's a good bit. Just like Kolkovich is looking for stuff in the garbage. Yes.
Oh my God. This is a moment that was still hilarious. They're assigned to guard a dump, and the emo Phillips guy is there, and he's found a comb that's barely been used, and he's taking it home with him.
And then he trades it for a partially used toothbrush.
No, John Candy tells him where he saw a red toothbrush and sends the guy out to go find it.
And then I remember he had like a shoe, and he was like, let me know if you find this one. And then he just walks away.
that was still a laugh out loud moment for me.
Yeah. It was a good bit. But again, that's the tone shift, right? Like, and I agree with you, Sudsy. Like, I think this would be better if it was just a slapstick comedy. Because you've got a great, funny cast for that. Meanwhile, Robert Loggia is playing his character from Over the Top or something. Like, it's such a strange, he's like, and I'll break your fucking legs.
Previous episode, Over the Top.
Canon picture. It's a lot of fun. But again, Robert Loggia is breaking people's legs, and this guy's looking for a shoe in a pile of shit. Like, it's just such a different movie. And the jobs keep getting progressively worse. As you mentioned, this is a toxic waste scene where like they're afraid to breathe, and these guys are coming out like zombies. And they said, yeah, it's hard. I'm losing teeth. I've only been here 3 weeks.
Honestly, they don't look as bad as you'd expect. That one guy just looks sleepy.
Yeah, I mean, they should look like I Was a Teenage Zombie or Spock from the end of Wrath of Khan. Like,
yes.
Like they should be melting. Which, you know what? It's fine.
No, they should be Hans Moleman. I'm 31 years old.
That's a good bit. It's funny because, again, this is Harold Ramis, and you could tell what he told those two to do is just be like, you have no idea what the scene is you're entering. They're going to say their lines, and you're just going to react like a good improver would. That's why I think that scene works so well. Some of the scenes later, they don't work as well. But from here, they decide we got to investigate this thing. We've got to get to the bottom of it. And so this is when we start harassing Tiny Lister, right?
Well, they go to his gym, and then when they're checking in with, I actually looked it up. Apparently that woman was a bodybuilder and fitness model in the 80s.
She was a bodybuilder?
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. But she's manning the desk, and they and also this is a movie that wants us to believe John Candy could punch out a bodybuilder. We'll get to that in just a moment. But they sneak in past her and then have to hide in an aerobics class where they're doing the same jokes that they did with John Candy and Splash, which is that he's massively horny and checking out the girls' butts as they're doing their exercises.
Something about 80s spandex.
Yep.
I mean, previous episode, Killer Workout, like that's why these 80s movies are fun. Like, there's no subtext. It's just kind of text. And so we have these, out of shape guys trying to do aerobics, and they're sweating and panting, and then there's just a butt in their face and scene. That's the scene.
And of course, the woman doesn't notice them somehow.
Right. Even though they're the only ones out of step, even though they're the only ones who aren't wearing spandex.
Eugene Levy's wearing a members only
jacket. Yeah.
And John Candy's wearing a fucking leather jacket. So yeah, it's
John Candy's costumes in any movie are just okay. Whatever he has at home and chose to wear today, that's the costume.
No, I think he goes shopping and makes them buy it, so it becomes his outfit.
There you go.
I believe it.
Because like John Candy comes with the saxophone backing track. Like Fat Guy John Candy music is just his soundtrack. But to keep up that style, he's just like, oh, no. This movie, I need a leather jacket. So you're coming with me while I get a leather jacket that belongs in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it.
Now, I also don't get why they wanted to recycle the same jokes from Splash in this. I mean, it really wasn't all that funny in Splash when John Candy was making Hustler reference and Penthouse references, and here it's just kind of weird because he's been established as this the usual John Candy, a lovable loser with a heart of gold, and then all of a sudden he's creeping on women.
And we haven't even gotten to the porn shop yet where he goes to the peep show. And
after looking at a gay porn magazine, granted, but
it's these character choices. He wants to do a different character, I guess. We should mention the scene where he threatens to murder a man. He takes a jump rope, wraps it around Tiny Lister's throat, and then threatens to drop the weights that he's doing from a lats machine on his head.
That is held on by Eugene Levy, whereas Lester was difficult.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
That's another scene where the movie should have just ended. Like, he's like, I can't hold to crush. Just crushes the guy.
Boom.
He's just like, well, I guess we're leaving.
It was very Finals Destination. Was it 3? It's like 8. Where I don't know if y'all remember that there was like a football player working out, and he had weights that would just like go above his head as like it was a chest machine, and that's instantly what I was going for. Just like a whole splat in his case, it would just go down. Like, that's why I don't go to the gym.
No, I was going to say the opposite. I went to the gym today and I saw that exact same thing happen. The guy.
Someone got murdered.
They had to call in someone to scrape the grape jelly, just squeegee down the walls.
Ugh.
It's a shame. The number one cause of gym fatalities is Final Destination.
That's why I don't work out at Curbs. That's why I don't work out at Curbs.
Tony Todd was working at the desk going, beat that Mac Daddy. Final Destination. Those are fun, stupid, fun movies.
Mm-hmm.
I've only, I think, ever seen the first one, but
previous episode.
Yep. So anyway, after the gym, they go and meet one of John Candy's former police informants, who's a retired thief, and he makes Eugene Levy pay $40 for some information about how Robert Loggia is a crook.
Yeah.
Which is the stupidest $40 anybody has ever spent in any movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually my favorite gag of the whole movie, that whole fishing scene. So they meet at a pier where everyone's doing some deep sea. They're fishing off of a pier, and I just like it because I think his name was Cappy, his informative, and then he was like, "No, I can't charge you, but I can charge him," and that's where he gets hustled out of $40.
Yeah, but again, Naked Gun did the gag better a little later with Frank trying to bribe for information and then getting his money back because he won't tell the informant what he's investigating.
Well, and then the informant runs out of money, so he borrows $20 from Drebin, and then he gives it right back to him. By the way, this guy also plays Duke, who's Apollo Creed's trainer from the Rocky movies as well. But this is also where he hooks a shark because we need to have some madcapery right at the end. And he kills the shark not by pulling it out of the water, but by shooting it 7 times.
And then he's holding, like, he's fucking holding the shark up like it's a big catch, but he has the gun too, so he's just making like gun gestures too.
And there's just holes in the side of the shark.
It's hilarious.
It's a good bit.
It is a good bit.
Anyway, so this is where they start to crack the case, you know.
Well, after John Candy shoots that shark.
So instead of jumping the shark, he's shooting the shark.
Yeah, and it's actually not that well edited. You can tell that the second unit footage of the shark was shot like 3 months after principal photography, and it's just so awkwardly done.
And so the rest of this, so to speak, is all kind of more or less like 2 set pieces. They go out to like Meg Ryan's house to try to get information out of her about what's going on tonight, and she says that there's a party that she has to go to for Carlino and her dad. John Candy tries to look through the peephole to watch her change because that's where we are in this movie.
Oh boy, because again, why would you want to make John Candy a lovable loser figure when you can just get him perving on Meg Ryan?
I'm gonna guess it was his choice, man. Like, he was a pretty big dude at this point, so I think he got to do what he wanted to do. But regardless, at this point, they show up in the shittiest tuxes you've ever seen and go to the party.
Powder blue tuxes, straight from a quinceañera.
Right, they do, dude. That's exactly right. But yeah, so they're at the party.
Well, hold on. You forgot their dates, and we already got the dates.
Oh yes, indeed.
Yeah,
the tanning salon employee who has no tan line on her chest. Where did he say he found those women again?
At the bar?
No, I have no idea.
It sounds like he knew them before, but yes, that is those are their dates for the evening.
And we should also mention, I guess, here, because they have been out of the movie for the last 45 minutes, the corrupt cops show back up to make fun of John Candy, who kicks the crap out of them, just to remind us that they're in the movie and they're about to show up at the end of the movie.
See, Chekhov's gun, the corrupt cop.
Great script writing.
Yes.
They decide to then go to the party because they've kicked the crap out of people, so they have to leave the bar. And while at the bar, they're collecting information. This is, again, where it gets very Naked Gun, very madcap. Also, later on, since we've talked about this already, but very Ace Ventura, where he goes to a party to steal information. Previous episode, have we done Ace Ventura yet?
Yes, we've done it. Yeah.
We've done the first one, not the second one.
Correct.
Okay. Carlino here is just grabbing on all the women.
Including the dates later, but this was another thing that just these days felt a lot more cliched. I mean, I've seen Scarface before, and I've seen Scarface parodied well and not so well. So the opulent mansion with the Greco-Roman faux figures by the pool, I've seen it. Yeah.
I mean, not to say that it's all terrible. This does have the best joke, I think, of the whole movie. The one who is supposed to be Eugene Levy's date, they're getting champagne, and they're standing by this old couple, and Eugene Levy goes, it's been a great party. And she goes, yeah, if I knew it was going to be this fancy, I would have worn underwear.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Which, again,
spit take.
That's a good joke. And And Eugene Levy can't handle that idea, so he spits all over this old woman, which leads to
Well, if she wasn't wearing underwear, then I hope that dress she was wearing wasn't a rental.
no, she got it out of a plastic egg.
Man, Reagan's America. You could be a tanning salon employee and still afford a $10,000 dress.
There you go.
Reaganomics.
Mommy. Reaganomics. Yes, the trickle-down effect. Robert Loggia's cocaine was going to trickle down his nose.
There you go.
Good old booger sugar.
I was watching this movie along with us to make sure I got the order of events because the movie's kind of all over the place, and so are we. Eugene Levy has so much chest hair, you can see it through his tuxedo around his collar.
Yeah, what was the gag there exactly? That they showed up in matching bad tuxes, that those tuxes were a thing that existed?
Dumb and Dumber. I'm sorry. That flashed through my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the same joke, but Dumb and Dumber did it better because there was a point to it in that these two, even if the point was just these two people are remarkably stupid.
Yeah, I think they needed to get a tux for the party and they got a good deal, but they were supposed to be powder blue tuxes with that weird fluffy chest piece that was
Dickie.
Yeah.
I'll also mention something that doesn't matter at all to the plot, but it's a Harold Ramis movie, so there's a cameo here. The band leader is Tito Puente. Which again is a big musician at the time, who's not even on screen for more than half a second, but he's credited, he's here, he's playing the music. I don't know why they bothered if they didn't care. Anyway, so at this point, Meg Ryan approaches her father and asks about, is the Carlino thing real? What's all this? Is there really corruption? What's going on? He tells off his daughter. And this is where we get the rest of the movie explained to us. John Candy and Eugene Levy go out to the pool area because they're supposed to meet the dates there, but they hear people coming, and it's Carlino, it's the head of the mafia, the two hitmen, James Tolkien, and they're all around talking about what's going to happen next. They're in the sauna for 45 seconds, which is too much for Eugene Levy, which we'll get to. It's very silly. But they explain that what's going on is Carlino wants to buy a bunch of cocaine, so he's put the entire pension fund for the union into cash, and what he's going to do is have people rob the armored truck so that the insurance will pay off the money, and that he can use the money to get cocaine.
Right.
Like I said, insurance covers it. Never interfere with a robbery.
This is the pension money. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The money, the $4 million a year that all the union members are paying.
Yeah, and at the moment there's something like 11 million in the kitty. So it's going to be, it is what it is. At this point, the girls come in handy because Carlino's going to walk off and, I don't know, bang them.
Did we mention that they're hiding in a steam room, Eugene Levy and John Candy? They're hiding in a sauna that has been turned on.
Yeah, and so they're having a hard time standing in a sauna for 3 minutes or whatever this scene lasts. Nothing. And
have you been in a sauna with a full suit on? That shit's hot.
Yeah, but they're not sweating. Like they have sweat in their hair, but they're I guess their tuxes are made out of like futuristic materials. They're wearing tarps. But there's no sweat on their tuxedos. But yeah, so they're going to take James Tolkien out and shoot him, right? So that he doesn't, because he essentially convinces, well, he doesn't convince Carlino anything, but he tells Carlino that he thinks it's a bad idea to rob the pension fund. So
because it could be traced back to him, because it's like, well, if this got robbed, why were you converting all of these assets into cash and bonds anyway?
Exactly.
So he's worried about getting caught, and he calls Carlino an asshole, and Carlino, it's like calling Marty McFly a chicken. You just apparently don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're taking him off to get killed, and our good guys open fire. And in the crossfire, James Tolkien is killed anyway, so it was all for naught. They decide to chase him, and this is where we get, pretty good chase scene, actually.
Yeah, and then another shootout where the principal from Back to the Future gets killed, and immediately Carlino and the security guard chief are blaming Candy and Levy. They flee the scene and end up hiding out in a porn shop.
Yeah, and it's very 1980s. You have a drag queen up front, you have punks in the back, you have
a woman, you have one woman.
Right.
One woman.
You
have
have
a dude who kind of looks like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. I don't mean to be gross.
Okay.
But what happened to these types? I mean, okay, obviously you see adult toy store. I don't know where I'm going with this. What
I
happened
would
to
suspect
these?
the internet. Why go to the sleazy part of town?
And then you can get a show for a quarter, or how much it was with the sliding windows.
Previous episode, The Howling.
Now, why exactly are you so eager to find out what happened to these shops?
He was trying to
Oh man, I'm just curious.
I mean, the answer is I'm sure these places still exist.
Well, I mean, Tokyo Valentine's still around in town, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's Tokyo Valentine? What?
It's an adult shop.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm writing this down.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and there are strip clubs around. It's just that these kinds of they diversified. You pick your corner now.
I guess it was more mainstream in the 80s and 90s for these particular types of deals. Because I remember, even watching 90 movies, I remember Boondock Saints comes instantly to mind, where they literally have a shootout in, they're standing in the middle of where I guess the entertainment is, and they're trying to kill. It slides up and then bop, 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 so yeah.
Yeah, we honestly, though, of the two scenes involving a porn shop with a peep show, I'd pick this movie.
I got you. Understandable.
No, the problem here is too, it doesn't amount to much. The scene where they're in the back, they're kind of hiding out, but then John Candy doesn't want to leave. And then
give me a quarter, it helps me think.
That's right.
And then Eugene Levy turns horny when the woman flashes her boobs at everyone.
Yeah.
Did I get an unedited version of this movie or edited version of this movie? Because I saw nothing.
There's nothing.
You don't see anything.
She reflects in the glass as naked, but you don't really see her.
I got you.
But then
Nor why are you pausing so much right now?
No, I'm just taking notes. It's
like the Zapruder film. You got to analyze it frame by frame.
My hands are up here, guys. Chill.
Okay.
Hands. Yeah, my hands will stay up here until we end this scene, just for you guys.
But what about your feet, Nor? What about your feet?
Oh,
I'm not versatile.
Goodness gracious, Matt.
Thank you for thinking I'm that athletic. I'm not. I'm not. I was going to say Charles Manson. Who's the other guy? Marilyn Manson?
Yeah, Marilyn.
All right.
Didn't he take out a rib so he can blow himself? Was that a thing?
Allegedly. No, allegedly? I don't think he actually did, but I remember when that rumor was going around.
I got you. Yeah.
We should also mention here, the reason they do this is the people who show up are the cops from before.
Yes.
That's why they duck into the shop. This is also where we have, I don't even know, it's such a strange scene. Eugene Levy comes out in the leather daddy outfit. John Candy comes out in drag, right?
In perfect makeup. They knock out two of the other patrons and steal their clothes.
But somehow Eugene Levy grows a mustache in that time period, so he looks like the guy. And this is where you had the scene that Matt was so fond of earlier, where you see his ass.
Yes, he steals assless chaps. So Eugene Levy is just letting it all hang out, and John Candy is doing his best Divine impersonation.
Yeah, quite literally. And we should mention, embarrassed by the fact that his butt is showing, Eugene Levy steals a map to cover up his butt, which then they use to outline the plan of what's going to happen next, which is that they are going to stop the robbery. Right. For some reason.
Because John Candy gives the John Belushi Animal House speech. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No, it's that there's right and there's wrong speech.
Which, I mean, I guess ends up working out for him by getting him back on the force, but otherwise has no purpose because they've been in the Union for a week. They haven't bought in. They don't get any of the pension money. Like,
now,
I mean, I'm sure they want to help people, but as they said, the insurance would pay off.
I gotta back up for a second to the gay panic joke with the assless chaps and then with John Candy and drag. That's how did that read for you guys today? Because after after Schitt's Creek, I don't think Eugene Levy would want to do that sort of joke again.
I mean, I thought it was funny.
I'm sure he's
Go ahead, Norm. Sorry.
No, I'm saying like what 2023 back in the 80s. I'm sure that was
40
like
years ago.
Thank you, math. I'm sure that was like a gut like drenching like a scene. What was that movie with Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze?
Dear Wong Fu, thanks for everything and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Right, and then Tom Hanks had that TV show where he was dressed again in drag to stay at a woman's only apartment. So I'm thinking there was a theme where like, and also that teetered that line between not homophobic, but just like where it's just like, oh, these guys are so hilarious, they're doing this as a gag, you know, kind of thing. You can't really do that now, but I think it was tasteful at the time, you know, if you will.
I mean, I honestly, my thought it's a waste of the jokes that they were already making. Like, there's so much more they could have done. I think that the second they stepped into the porno theater, that scene could have been changed to literally anything else and it would have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, I get part of the joke is about them playing the cops' homophobia against them by creeping them out too much so that they don't want to investigate any further.
But I mean, like, if that's the case, well, and then the next scene is the one where John Candy is dressed up like he's in the movie 1941 again, right?
Yeah.
If he wants to be a master of disguise, he should do that more, right? Like, he only puts himself in costumes twice, and it's these two scenes. Like, to me, it seems like one of those bad SNL bits that your uncle laughs at, but they don't show anymore. And you know what I mean? Like, and there's other ways you could do something silly and over the top like that. It would also be funnier, in my mind, if the drag queen, they do the thing where they're going to knock the person out, steal their uniform, but the drag queen kicks the shit out of Eugene Levy, and then he has to come up with another plan. That's a funnier joke to me. And so instead, he comes out dressed like one of the inflatable dolls.
And they happen to be the same, like, I don't know, body stature. They happen to get a big someone that's perfectly John Candy's size, who's perfectly Eugene Levy. It's like a scene from Spaceballs, where they just happen to have a again, same actor, John Candy, just happens to get a stormtrooper or whatever that's husky.
Well, I mean, it's the way that they do it in Indiana Jones, which is funnier, which is that the first guy he knocks out isn't his size. So the commanding officer come over and starts yelling at him for looking bad in his uniform. So Jones punches out the other guy and puts on his uniform instead. Like, that's a better bit because it has a build-up joke. You set up the joke and then you knock it out. And to call cops in the 80s homophobic is not a joke. It's the truth.
It is the truth. Yeah.
Anyway, so the end of this is the big car chase robbery, and it's literally the last 20 minutes of the movie, right?
Yeah, basically, there's John Candy trying to get to the rendezvous point after his ancient motorcycle breaks down, and then Meg Ryan and Eugene Levy are now driving the armored truck while her dad is trying to find them because they're going to kill the truck drivers, the drivers of the armored car, I mean.
Right, and Meg Ryan was not supposed to be the driver, but she convinces Kolovchik to switch with her.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry.
But again, he's funny in this.
Yeah.
We need more of him.
Well, even John Candy getting ready with his motorcycle and shit. Like, to me, if I'd watched this movie when I was like 10, like, I'm sure I'd be like crying at that scene where he's trying to start the bike, but it keeps fucking up. And then he takes the bike to the streets like, hey, okay, look, familiar ground. That to me, that's for me, that's good physical comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and we get more of it here because we cut to John Candy, and after the motorcycle actually starts, he's stuck in traffic, and he's trying to do the thing where he weaves in and out of traffic, like asshole motorcyclists do. And he first clips someone's car door. Yeah. He's like, haha. And then his motorcycle just freaking breaks down because it's a piece of garbage. So he's just running on foot. And as he runs on foot, these teenagers start harassing him and throwing beer at them, which is great. And so he stabs the monster truck tire, which is, that's the scene. That's the scene with comedic notes, and it's got beats, and he's running along, and he's like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. Funny. That's funny. Yeah.
And then he ends up going to a tractor trailer that's hauling jet fuel. And I think, honestly, I wish we had more of this Southern...
the hero of the movie, you mean?
Huh?
The hero of the movie, you mean?
The hero of the movie. I honestly, if there could have been a movie about that truck driver, if he could have been in the beginning of the movie and been a part of all the antics as, like, their third guy, oh my God. Just, I don't know, maybe because we're all from the South, maybe I just enjoyed that. He's like, come on, Slim, we can do this. And just, he fucking bulldozed all the traffic, not knowing that he has a fucking, I mean, I think John Candy thought it was like a milk truck, but he, and just no regard to life. I mean, like, I mean, shit, my cousin drives an 18-wheeler, but before that, I just couldn't trust them. But this scene gave me hope.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this guy is halfway. I mean, another Harold Ramis joint. The Good Old Boys from Blues Brothers, but it's like really what it is it's Slim Pickens from Dr. Strangelove. He's just like, son of a bitch, and he's just driving through this shit, and it's funny. And in fact, John Candy's, you could tell, thought he'd have to tell the guy to go faster or something, but the guy just starts going, so he's just like, yeehaw.
Yeah.
Good acting from John Candy.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good supporting bit for that guy. I kind of wish we'd seen a little more of him. I mean, he's got a great arc in the sense that John Candy ends up giving that giant ass gun to him as a reward.
Yeah. I don't know what could have been.
Right. But the end of this is, I mean, we don't have to describe a chase scene beat for beat, but it becomes kind of a crowded scene satire where everyone we've met in the movie kind of shows up. The corrupt cops, the other mafia guys. Robert Loggia, in fact, shows up at one point. The dad takes another armored truck and drives into Robert Loggia's car, pulls a gun on him, giving the citizen's arrest, which we are explained in the first scene. As they are rent-a-cops, though Eugene Levy goes, do we have any protection here? He goes, nope. So that's it. Nope. That's it. We're not going to worry about the rest of this.
Yeah, unfortunately, these guys are committing oodles of felonies. Like, one of them breaks out a rocket launcher at one point.
You didn't tell me that we got missiles.
That was a flaw in my plan, which, again, that kind of shows just how all over the place the movie is, because that's a naked gun joke, having a giant rocket launcher.
Right. I wasn't expecting that shit.
The rocket launcher hitting the jet fuel, which, again, great. Just great. This ends up with the explosion that kills everyone. I assume
including
the ice
Jonathan
cream truck
Banks.
It should have killed everyone.
That's right.
It
Ice
is
cream truck
rocket
explodes.
fuel.
That's right. Ice cream truck explodes. The cop car explodes. Everything explodes. But at the end, everyone's fine. The chief of police shows up and goes, "Ha rumph," and gives them their jobs back because I guess he has to at greatly reduced pay, and hires Eugene Levy to be a cop. And Meg Ryan, I guess, is now in charge of the security company.
And that's really just, it's one of those 80s movies, which they at least knew when to end, because that's the final scene, is them all walking away.
Yeah.
There's no extra scene of them at police academy or anything. No, that's just it.
We didn't know what happened to Tommy Lister's character after the gym.
Not in the end. They just wrote him out of the movie.
He just disappears.
Scenes deleted Lister, they called him.
I heard that the long rumored Schumacher cut restores all of Zeus Lester scenes to the movie.
That was for Batman and Robin or Batman Forever?
Forever.
We're gonna have to watch that, right? Like,
unless they cut Tommy Lee Jones out or like redub him, it's still not going to be that great.
No, it's going to be nuts though. I think I'm going to have to see it because it's going to be insane. Anyway, that's kind of it.
That is indeed kind of it. And where should we go from here? I guess we could go around and just get everyone's final thoughts, having talked about the movie, having watched it yourselves. Would you recommend it to anybody else? Matt?
I would. I mean, I don't know how much rewatch value it really has, but it's tight, it's short, it's funny, and it drags a little bit in the middle, but that's really about it. I liked it a lot. Good idea, Daniel.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. What about you, Nor?
I really enjoyed the movie. It takes me to a simpler times where movies were just, hit or miss. And I can tell during this time, like, comedy was starting to revamp, especially the buddy cop movies. Like you said, Lethal Weapon came out the year before. We were doing 48 Hours, in which this kind of led on to my favorite buddy cop movie, Rush Hour, the Rush Hour series. No, it's nostalgic in a sense. I like seeing a young Eugene Levy. He was introduced to me during American Pie, and just seeing another role with John Candy. Like, I can honestly see him as, like, if he had just plays the straight man in any movie, he's fucking hilarious. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna watch. There's a movie of his with him and Matthew Perry, and I think that was the movie where I think he had essentially his last movie role. So no, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for choosing this game.
You're welcome. Nick, what do you think?
Here we go.
I think you're confusing two things, Nor.
Okay.
The Matthew Perry one is Chris Farley's last film. The John Candy's last movie is the one with Richard Lewis, which is almost the exact same plot. The Chris Farley one is called like Almost Famous or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Almost Heroes.
Almost Heroes, and they're like competing against the Corps of Discovery, right? Lewis and Clark. And this one is called Wagons East, where they went to California and now they're trying to go back. But anyway, this is just for me. I don't dislike this. I think it's totally fine. It's just an 80s comedy. There's a bunch that even star a lot of these same people, like Delirious, like we can't ever do Nothing But Trouble. I hate that movie. But Uncle Buck, Who's Harry Crumb, The Great Outdoors. You could just have yourself, a John Candy kind of day. And this movie's totally fine. I mean, I disagree with Matt slightly. I don't think it's that tight. I think the problem is what Daniel said earlier, the tone shifts. Like, that makes it hard it takes me out of the movie. And when I get taken out of the movie, I feel like it drags. But when the guys are allowed to be funny, they're really funny. So for that, I'd say watch it. It's one that you can just kind of put on in the background, and for the most part, don't, it's fine. There's a couple bits that don't hold up in terms of time. So I just say, just know what you're getting into and just watch it. It's fine.
So I think watching again, I still love the two leads, but they've done much better things in their careers. I mean, we mentioned some of the things that they did, like John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Eugene Levy in Schitt's Creek. Also, there are just a ton of cop spoofs. And again, we mentioned some of the better ones, like we mentioned Naked Gun a few times. Nor mentioned Rush Hour, which I think is better than this movie. So this is more for, I guess, John Candy and Eugene Levy completists. They were tremendously funny. They were great together. John Candy died way too young. So there's unfortunately not a large body of work to go off there with him. But they still managed to do some betters. So really, if you're already a fan of these guys, check it out. They still have great chemistry and there's some good gags. But overall, if you're just new to this, check out some other cop spoofs, and I think you'd enjoy them more. And coming from me, I know this was my pick, but I guess ultimately, Nick, I gotta say it doesn't quite hold up for me.
It happens. And that's
Who's your movie?
I know.
Well, and that's why he chose to rewatch it among friends.
I got you.
So next week, unfortunately, Daniel's month ends as we go back to Comedy Town with the Tom Arnold vehicle, The Stupids.
Now, this one I picked because I've never seen it. I've just heard about it by its reputation, and I'm kind of eager to see it. I loved the books as a kid, and just seeing John Landis shit the bed in the 90s is kind of satisfying.
Very good.
Tom Arnold or Tom Landy?
John Landis.
Okay.
John Landis is the director. Tom Arnold is the star.
Yes.
I know that now.
And as a reminder, John Landis killed 2 children.
And this is Tom Arnold, not his wife, who at the time who believed that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Well, she just came out and said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roseanne Barr.
Oh, Roseanne. I never got the fucking appeal. Oh, Middle America. Damn it.
Yep.
Does anybody remember that SNL spoof with Chris Farley as Tom Arnold?
Oh, right. Yes.
That was his first, if I'm not mistaken, that was like his first year as a cast member.
You may very well be right.
Yeah. Because I remember he was doing weekend updates. It was Dennis
Miller?
Dennis Miller.
Dennis Miller. And he was like, can't believe I saw the new kid's ass. And,
yeah.
Anyway.
A lot of people saw Chris Farley's ass back in the day.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for reviewing us, sharing us, and doing all you do to keep us on the charts when we're on the charts. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
See ya. Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution for License, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.